Larry King was,
Oh,
kind of what
I'm
I
gonna
said you
record this. I'm
reminded
gonna
me of.
record this. I'm gonna record this. Okay, now we're recording. Okay, you're
Oh
good.
man, I just was saying it's crazy that this morning, I just found out that Larry King had passed this morning. And when
Mhm.
you started Speak Your Life, you sent me a little, a couple of copies, and I listened to a little bit, and I said, are in that Larry King niche, where you're able to ask those questions, make someone feel comfortable, but you're able to ask those questions, and
Mm.
asking questions is key. So the fact
Yeah.
that this is the first time me and you actually get to connect on here. We've been talking about doing this for almost 2 years now since you started. And
Mm.
then today is the day he passed. That's a very interesting transition right there. So we're just talking about that now. And that's literally right before we came on here. I found out about an hour ago about that. That's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Are you is your camera in a different angle? Because it looks like you're looking at something else. Like whenever.
Okay, I'm looking at the laptop and then you want me to look at the camera instead, huh?
Oh, no, no, no. I was just saying, like, I don't, maybe I don't know if it's the angle or something, but it's like it looks like it almost seems like the camera's on one side, and then I don't know.
Right, right, right. I'm gonna move it. What? I'm gonna move it. Put it like this. I have all these cords plugged in. I don't want to.
This man's ready to go.
Right, right. I've really, been practicing, man. I've been practicing. So
Wow, that's good. Let me grab my little notepad. Okay,
trying to get the camera
digital
correctly.
notes. My digital notes. Okay. All right, welcome everybody, and Speak Your Life family and Stanley's family on his YouTube channel. If you've not already, y'all need to subscribe to this man's channel. It's got a lot of great content about social justice, social injustice rather, and talks about the church.
We're
Talks about
recording live. My man, I
great.
didn't even know we were recording live.
We're
Let's
live,
do it.
bro. We're live.
Let's do it.
Coming
That's our
live from the
energy.
ATL in Sacramento. Ooh, okay.
Sacramento, California.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, but sorry, you were talking about Larry King and everything like that, because yeah,
Right.
that was very sad. He was 87 and he was very like iconic, legendary guy, like interviewer, radio, everything. Like everybody knows who that guy is, and he was just a big staple to radio, and just I think he
Right.
changed the dynamic of like turning interviews into conversations rather than it being a thing where, all right, we have this agenda and we're going to be aggressive and we're going to like push that on in however way we can on whoever we're bringing on. But I mean, he talked about what he wanted to talk about, but the way he did it was just what made him stand out. So,
Right.
but that's.
Right. I agree. Yeah. He was able to interview everybody. He had that one series, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction.
Hmm.
He was at that level where he was able to just interview anybody who was somebody.
Mm.
They were going on there with Larry King and able to ask those questions. So that's very key.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, man. So it yeah, 2021 has been a wild start, and it's still January, still
Hmm.
January. And when we talk about a wild start, we can't just bypass the part about the insurrection. January 6th, that was a Wednesday, and I remember I was listening to NPR when it was going live. I was just driving in my car, and
Hmm.
I was just in shock. I was just dismayed, and
What did you first find out about? What did you first hear about?
what you said, when or how?
Yeah, what did you first find out about?
Uh, I just remember hearing on NPR radio they were talking about live, like, there's a storming of the Capitol going on, and there's people trying to take over, and they had to protect the senators, Congress people, because they were trying to interfere with the certification of the election, because these people were living in a delusional land, thinking that Trump was still their
Right,
president.
right,
He didn't get the votes. So, and it, of
right,
course, they want to call this a fraud. When they win, it's and when Hillary loses, it's not a fraud. But when Biden wins, it's a fraud. So, there's always
right,
suspicion.
right,
But it is what
right.
it
The
is.
scariest thing for me, it wasn't the fact of it wasn't them showing up at the Capitol and marching on the Capitol and storming on the Capitol.
Everybody
You
has the
can
right.
see they had a
I
mob.
support people's rights.
Right, right. It wasn't that at all. The most
Yeah.
interesting fact is the complicitness of people who were in leadership supposed to be maintaining order. And that's kind
Mm,
of what we focus on when we're talking about social justice and white supremacy is,
mm,
hey, there's a system that allows people, a certain group of people,
mm,
to live without boundaries, and that's
mm,
evil, that's wrong, and you have to fight against that. So that's what we fight against with police brutality. What makes it so brutal is the fact that these are people who are
mm.
supposed to maintain order. These are
Yeah.
people who are supposed to bring peace. So if you have those people causing destruction, then all the way trickling all the way down from the top of the law all the way down is going to be dysfunction and disorder. That's why it's so important to deal with it in these areas of leadership, from police to policies that are made to fight against the injustices that are happening. So
Mm,
when you saw them at the Capitol, you saw policemen there as well, you saw people who were firefighters there as well, you saw people who were honorable people in society, who you're like, why, like, why they're just allowing this system to go ahead and crumble, and they're taking it down. So that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. It was absolutely crazy, and it was the epitome. I'm gonna say white privilege because I mean, that's just. I feel like
Yeah,
that's not even a way to describe it. It was the epitome of what Charlemagne calls caucasity, because they had such
capacity.
the audacity to come up there and, oh yeah, you know what? We're not fighting for rights of human beings. We're not fighting for the right to live. We are fighting because we we feel like we have the right to break windows and call for Mike Pence's hanging because, oh, we felt like we were robbed, and because that's what our leader told us. He told us that. He told us this lie, and it was spread throughout QAnon and all these different platforms. And it was crazy because there's a lot of people out there that are good Republicans. A lot of people that we
Mhm.
know, they're very good conservative people. Very they really do embody Christianity. And then there are people who are in this party, and I've had, I mean, I don't even consider this you know I don't know, these people, I don't consider them part of the Republican Party, because this is
Mhm.
not what I mean, this is not a reflection of the whole Republican Party, let's be honest. But
Right,
this
right.
is what people call the Retrumplican Party. And it's like, is he going to create another party, the Patriot Party, whatever? There's been speculation about him creating a whole nother party. But and that's why I think it's so important for this impeachment trial, because it allows for him to never hold office ever, ever again. This is unprecedented. We've never tapped into waters like this, because we've impeached him, but yet we've never held a Senate impeachment trial for a non-active president who's now a private citizen. So
Right, right.
we're stepping. Everything is new territory, and
Right, right. Right, right.
and
And you know what, Aundrey, with
crazy.
last year, 2020 it's what I call the year of reset. So
Mm,
everything last year got reset, and I even saw that in government. It was reset. Normally you have a president go through with what, 8 years, but
mm,
you had that total reset where it's like the way the system is going cannot continue as is. It cannot
mm.
continue as is, working and functioning smoothly. So
Yep.
that's kind of what we saw, with the politics this 2020, and now moving into 2021. It's not the reset anymore. It's the start. It's the first step. So now
Mm,
everybody, it's time to move with momentum. Every time you have different people coming into the country. You have people here in the country who are trying to establish themselves. You
Mm-hmm.
have a change in the system. A lot of those people who were at the Capitol, they don't want that change to happen. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want there to be a country that's dominated with minorities. This has been historically a country that is for white people, that is
Mm-hmm.
for, they want a white dominated class. And that
Force
is no longer
bias.
the
Yep.
case. And in the future, that's no longer going to be the case. So that's something that a lot of people have a fear of, but that's a reality of the world. It's a truth we have to live in, and we have to move forward. We can no longer move forward in the world going by the lies that have been presented to us in the previous generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's really sad that people, when they feel so entitled to, to they call it their rights, but I don't, that's not their rights, because it's just like it's taking it to the extreme. I think any extreme is never good. And I always like to quote C.S. Lewis, and I remember in chapter 7 of the Screw Tape Letters, where for the people out there
Mhm.
who don't know who C.S. Lewis is, C.S. Lewis is
That's a great
one of
read
the
too. The Screw
greatest
Tape Letters is a
Christian
great read.
authors of all time. Like,
Right.
like for me, I say outside of any author of the Bible, he is my favorite author. Like outside of people, and I don't want to blaspheme over here, but
Right.
he is my favorite, and I got to go to his house and everything like that, and just like
Wow.
see.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to, when I was studying abroad in the UK. We were in Oxford, and we got to tour his house. We got to be behind the desk where all the magic happened, where he wrote, the famous Chronicles of Narnia, where he wrote, all the other
Right.
books that are
Right.
famous. And for those who don't know, he was best friends or BFFs with J.R.R. Tolkien, which is the
Hmm.
creator of Lord of the Rings. He wrote the
Right.
original books, and actually J.R.R. Tolkien was the reason why he came back to Christianity, because C.S. Lewis was lost for a while, and he was out there in the wilderness, so to speak, and he was not in touch with his faith. He was
Hmm.
actually looking to abandon his faith and be an apostate, but luckily he had a great friend named
Right.
J.R.R.
Right.
Tolkien, and I got to visit his grave as well. But anyways, that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is that in his book, The Screw Tape Letters, which is basically, it's a book that's about the perspective of Satan and how he tries to infiltrate the mind and the soul of what they call the patient, which is us, the
Hmm.
humans. And and of course, it doesn't work like, he doesn't work like this. He doesn't work, quickly like that. It's always a slow transitional process. That's how he works.
Hmm.
And in chapter 7 of this the Screwtape Letters, there was a
Hmm.
mention of to give more context, there was a war going on, and the patient in this case, he is fighting this battle, and he's trying to establish himself as a patriot, trying to fight for his country.
Hmm.
But in this, it talks about the extremities of that. We have the extremities of hate for other nations. You don't want to. I don't think you should be on extreme on any side. Don't be extreme where you hate your country. Don't be too extreme where you're such a patriot that you become us versus them, and everybody is an enemy. Everybody,
Hmm.
and maybe they might even live in the country. And it seems that way with here. There seems to be an us versus them mentality. We're so patriotic. Well, Kaepernick, how dare you take a knee, and that's disrespecting the flag. When yet I saw
Right.
somebody take a flag that had, the American flag, and take the pole
Right.
and hit an officer with it. You want to talk about disrespect? Disrespecting the flag, that is disrespecting the flag right there. And it's
Right.
just
Right.
funny because it's such hypocrisy that I see, and I
Right.
cannot stand that. And it's just like the people, again, it's not all conservatives, not all Republicans, and just to get this out of the way, I don't
Right. Right.
identify as Democrat or Republican,
Hmm.
because they both have problems. And anyways,
Right. And
but
a label is just a label.
it is,
Someone could be
it
Democrat
is.
and vote Republican. Someone could be Republican, then vote Democrat. Someone can tell you whatever they wanted to vote for. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And so it's just like, I think that we have to be careful as far as any kind of extreme, because
Mhm.
Again, it's good to be a patriot. It's good to be, a lover of the United States of America. It's a great country. Despite the many flaws that we have, this is still a great country because
Mhm.
we could be living in a country where, you don't have freedom of faith, you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have freedom of the
Mhm.
press,
Right,
and
right.
all those rights. So
Right,
it's,
right. There's some
you
scarier
know,
situations. There's some scarier situations. That's definitely true. There's some people who don't even have access. If you're in America, you have access to get some food. You
yeah,
don't have to walk miles to get some food. You can go stand on a corner somewhere, put up a sign. You can just stand there and look like you need some food, and someone will hand you some food. That's how abundant this country is. So that's very
mm,
true that the country's do not have it like that everywhere. They don't have it like that everywhere. Everybody's trying to get to this one. So yeah,
yeah,
so we really, and we as Americans, that mentality, it's two different Americas. You've heard that
hmm
saying of two different Americas. It's an America that, in the 1750s and 1800s, for some people, it was already popping in America. It was
hmm
already going very good. And this is what they talk about, make America great again. For them,
hmm
it was already good. For another
yep,
population, it wasn't all the way good.
yeah,
For us as the slave population during that time, it wasn't all the way good. So we've been moving with America with a dream to make the
mm,
country better, a dream
hmm
to make the country more righteous, make the country more stable. And other people
yeah,
have been moving in a way with uh, 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 maintaining their comfortability, maintaining
mm,
their neutrality on issues, and maintaining their comfortability of their own rights, their own speech, regardless of who the country and government is oppressing. And so
yeah,
we basically see those two different populations coming to a growth. Both of those populations have grown up 1700s, 1800s, 1900s in the country, and now they're at a fight. And then you
mm,
have a lot of others who are watching the fight. But there's some of us who have been fighting in this country, as you say, patriotic since the country started, since before the country. Those of us who are descendants of slaves, we built the country. So this is something that we
mm,
have to take in consideration as Black people when we're dealing with politics, when we're dealing with Republicans or Democrats. That's something we have to take into consideration when we're moving and dealing with people, is who we are when we're going to them with our claims for whatever our policies are, when we're going to them with our claims for whatever we want to change and whatever we want to have happen for our community. We have to know, like, hey, we're the builders. We fought for the country. I know my grandfather, you have people
yeah. My
in your
grandfather was in
lineage
the army
who
too.
have fought for this country. So we're very patriotic with the country, and we don't fight against, we're not trying to take down the country necessarily. We're just trying to help clean up the house of the country, if that makes sense.
When you were talking about, we were, our people, our ancestors built this nation for free. We built the White House for free. I think of that quote Malcolm X says, like, they didn't land on. It was like, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, it's like, it is so
That's
true,
true.
and
That's true.
it just makes me, I don't know. I mean, like, on one side, I'm grateful to live in this day and age where, I'm not have to, have to worry about my family being broken up, and worry about, being in shackles, and
Right,
picking
right.
cotton and stuff like that. But we do live in another age where, there is some type of slavery still going on,
Hmm.
where we well, we just don't, when you don't have a lack when you have a lack of information, you are a slave. And then if you don't open your
Right,
mind up,
right,
you are a slave. And so for the
right.
people, in
Very
our country,
true.
we're behind educationally, we're behind, financially. We're always, we're financially, behind. They say that, for every $100 that a white person has in America,
Mm.
a black person has five of those dollars out of 100. That's not good. That
And do
is
you know
not
how
good.
insane
We don't.
that is? That's insane that
It,
is even a reality,
it, and
that's a
that's sad that
reality
that's a
when we both been
norm
here
too.
now.
It's
We
sad that
both
that's a
got here
norm. Yeah,
together.
and that's
We
why
both came over here.
we can't normalize. That is not okay. That's not okay to normalize that. And I
Right.
think a lot of times when it comes to making change happen, where there's equity, anytime where, people speak of equity and it causes a change in the status quo.
Right.
People's way of attacking that is by using the rhetoric of that's radical. That's
Mhm.
radical. When
Right.
it's just like that's just how that it's just the rhetoric that is used to bring down the real meaning behind of those implications when it comes to policy changes, when it comes to just changes of the heart, because honestly, that takes more time than any policy will ever.
Right.
And so, it will take. I mean, if you want to call it radical, that's fine. But you know, it's you know, there's a lot of things that I can think of that were quote unquote radical. The people, that dumped the tea. Back to when the Britons were trying to suppress the Patriots here in the 1700s. They had to do what was
Mhm.
radical. When even Jesus, like, flipping the tables, that was radical. Like,
Right. Right.
and
His whole
even,
lifestyle was radical. His whole lifestyle was radical.
yeah,
There's a book by John Piper, Don't Waste Your Life,
mm,
and he talks about we have to be more radical like Christ was. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we had to be like Christ, like radical for justice, for love, for peace, and for growth. Like, and I think it all depends on where is that being channeled. Like, if you're
Hmm.
being radicalized for delusion, then, or for what is evil, then that's not good. But if you're if you're being radical for positive change, then that's okay. MLK was considered
Right.
radical in his day while he was
Right.
living. Well, now we celebrate. This is the man. This is the people want to lift him up and say, we have a day which is great, but people
And
want
what was
to
considered
emphasize that.
radical at his time is
Mhm.
now considered injustice. Like what was considered
Mm,
radical then, like he was being radical,
yeah.
fighting for people to be able to
Sit
drink
at
from
the
the
lunch
same water
counter.
fountains, eat at the same restaurant, go to a swimming pool. So
Mhm,
what they were saying he was doing wrong,
mm,
radical, we look
mhm,
back on and say, who in the world would think to do something like that? It wasn't even logical to have people have two separate bathrooms for different
yeah,
colors. It wasn't even logical financially. It wasn't logical as far as civics goes. It just wasn't logical. So when we
mm,
look back at what radical is, Christ came and taught a very a simple but a true message, efficient, very
mm,
efficient. So the radicalness helped improve many lives. So when we
mm,
talk about radical, a lot of times it's not a negative thing. It's just
mm,
pushing people out of their comfort zone into something that is better, maybe more efficient for them. But the path to get there isn't comfortable.
mm,
MLK has a quote where he said, "Hey, the most difficult people he had to deal with were people who just wanted to remain neutral on all situations. They didn't really want to push one way or another. They didn't want to really take a stand for anything." He said those are the most difficult people to move, deal with, or do anything with because they don't have any energy or life to move and to be radical and create life. That is radical, is to create,
mm.
create life and to move life.
Yeah, yeah. He talked about what you're referring to as the white moderates is what he called them in letter
Yeah.
to it was like the letter from the Birmingham jail
Burning.
cell.
Right, you're right.
And that was a very long letter, but a very, very good, poignant, and very deep, powerful letter that
Right.
is everybody, well, not everybody, just like a lot of people read that and just kind of, you know you really get to you see his mind and how he thought. Even when he was in jail,
Right.
his mind was still free. His mind was always free. You could lock that man up, and his mind was free. You weren't going to
Wow.
stop him from writing a letter. You were not going to stop him from talking about change. You were not going to stop
Right.
him from talking about radical change and
Right.
bringing injustice down and bringing that house down. And
Paul was the same way in the Bible too. Paul was the same way.
yeah,
Me being Christian, yourself as well. Like Paul was
mhm,
in jail and he was singing. Paul was in jail and he was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
converting people.
Yeah.
It was the mind. His mind
Mm.
was not in jail. His mind was not a slave,
Mm.
And even in slavery, they told slaves, you can't ask questions, you guys can't read. They said we have to enslave that mind because you can't have a
Mm-hmm.
slave if the mind's free. So now we have to go after that knowledge,
Yeah.
we have to go after that knowledge. Um, and I used to go to the library, and there used to be rolls of just slave records from, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and I used to be like, whoa, like it was empty on that whole floor of the library,
Wow.
but I was like, the records are here, the journals, the narratives, they're all here for us to
Mm-hmm.
know and learn and to understand better. It's just, whew, man, like we have to get that knowledge, and not just the history, but knowledge and intelligence in this generation now, technology, sciences, math, and just, really taking that intelligence to another level. Because right now
Mm-hmm.
it's a rush. Everybody is learning stuff through this internet. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
reset their education standard, and the internet is like the tool everybody's using to be educated right now. So everybody kind of has a fair shot through the internet. You don't
Yeah.
have to go to college to get college information anymore. You can
Yeah.
literally just pull out your phone and get college information. So it's on you to pursue the knowledge now. It's on you to pursue the intelligence and to go after the intelligence. Our culture is intelligence, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of in media and propaganda. They highlight the worst stuff,
Yeah,
the
they do.
world star, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, like where's the intelligent, the Langston Hughes, the Booker T. Washingtons and George Washington Carvers. Where's the
No,
intelligence that's
nobody wants to talk
highlighted and
about that.
promoted, and even all the way down to today? You see in
Boyce
videos and references.
Watkins,
So
Doctor. Nobody
we have
wants
to
to talk about
highlight
Dr.
that
Boyce.
intelligence again. Go after that learning.
Yeah, there's a lot of intelligent,
Say it again.
Tariq. There's a lot of black intelligent people out there that they're not, of course they don't want to highlight that. Tariq
Right.
Nasheed, Dr. Boyce
Right.
Watkins, the people that we met at the conference. There's so many, so many,
Right.
so many people.
Right.
Black
Right.
people starting businesses, writing books, becoming, scholars. Just
Business owners, you're right. Like that's becoming a part of our culture. Is we're realizing like, hey, I need to put
ownership.
something on Instagram or Facebook and sell that. I need to put something on, you can go and just drop ship stuff now. I mean, there's so many creative ways. You just got to go after it and be confident with your stuff. It might take a little while, but just go after it,
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah, I want to shift back really quickly. I
right,
know
right,
we're running out of time, but when it comes to the insurrection, I just I really wanted to talk about like how like what this means because like
mm,
I and for y'all that don't know, I'm the biggest fan of NPR. I love NPR so much. We got 10 minutes left, but anyways, one of the ladies on there, she was featured on there, and she was talking about how she was from Turkey, and it's a country, where coups happen all the time. It's normal, and she was saying that, maybe the first time, they failed attempt, second attempt failed, third attempt failed, but that fourth time, they learned from the first, second, and third time, but that
right,
fourth time was successful, and that was a tragedy. And it's the same way with her. She said, and she was like, as a Turkish person, I am warning you as the U.S., United States of America, that you guys need to get a wrap on this. You need to have accountability at the highest level on all sides,
hmm
from Donald Trump to the people who were actually infiltrating the building itself. Because if not,
right,
if this is just a slap on the wrist, let's just turn a blind eye and continue to have unity and healing and no, 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 no. People want to talk about healing and unity and let's not divide. No, no, no. I didn't hear that rhetoric when Donald Trump was in office. So I really don't want to hear that, from people, lawmakers who talk about how we need to be unified. No, 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 no. It's the
hmm
same way, and I think of it this way: let's just say, for instance, a wife, you have a husband and a wife, right? And
right,
and then the man, he goes out and he cheats on his wife, right? But the thing is, he comes back home after cheating on his wife and saying, "Hey, baby, we need to have unity. We need to have we need to get together. What does that sound? Oh, hold
Right.
up now. Hold up. I'm
Right.
not
Right.
brand new. See, there's a
Right.
process when it comes to there's a process in Christians out there, Republican, Democrat, whoever you are, we know there's a process when it comes to reconciliation. There's no true reconciliation until there's accountability first. That husband needs to first, acknowledge what he's done. There needs to be some kind of consequence. Otherwise, this is bound to repeat itself. Because
Right. You're right. So true.
if you just go from, oh, I messed up to, oh, let's just skip all over this, skip that process, and let's just go straight to back to where we were or back to unity. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Reconciliation has a process, and you have to go
Beautiful.
through that. It's
Yeah.
like, in America, we talk about due process. There is a due process when it comes to reconciliation on the spiritual realm and here in the physical realm on earth. So I don't know. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
Right. I totally agree with you. Reconciliation it starts with acknowledgement. It starts with acknowledgement. Uh, you can Malcolm X has the quote. You can pull out the knife. If it's in there 9 inches, you can pull out the knife to 6 inches. But if you won't even acknowledge the knife is there, then what are we dealing with? And so kind of
Mm,
acknowledging how you said, going towards love and unity, but we have to acknowledge that the country was started on division. It was based on division. There had to be a division of people and classes, and that was the game plan. So we have to acknowledge that and then say, we don't want that system anymore. We want to change that system, and we're not even going to put people in places of power who
mm,
promote and go along with that type of thinking.
yeah.
Some of it dies out with time, but some of it we have to just stop now in this generation. Like some
Mm,
stuff is real simple. In 2024, we know there's going to be another election. We have to gather ourselves and take care of business, making
mm,
sure that the right people get in the right places and the wrong people don't get in the right places. So
mm,
that's how I look at that with reconciliation. It's a beautiful thing though, because if
mm,
what do you do if somebody doesn't want to reconcile with you? If you've been wrong
mm,
and that other group or party doesn't want to acknowledge or reconcile with you, then it's on you to respond to say,
mm,
hey, I'm going to at least stop the abuse. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I'm going
mm,
to not sit here and support you anymore while you're abusing me. I'm not going to, that's mental illness if you continue to support someone who's abusing you, fighting you, or even ignoring you.
mm,
That's, now you're mentally ill. Something going on with you because you're supposed to have enough pride about yourself, esteem
mm,
about yourself to move away from a situation. But I do believe that there's many people who want reconciliation. There's many people who they see the injustices and wrong done, and it just is about having the courage to speak up. All
yeah.
people of all races, white people, black people, even people of other groups, it's just about having the courage to speak up because it's not something that's widely accepted to speak against the systems, the
Mm,
governmental systems that are in place and the structures that have been in place for a long time that a lot
mm,
of people are dependent on, but that are transitioning for the better of all of us. It's going to transition for the better of all of us.
yeah. Yeah. And on that note, I at least in my lifetime, this is, Biden has been the only president that has called out, systematic racism in those exact words in an inauguration.
Mm,
I mean, I didn't
mm,
even hear that from Obama's administration. Not nothing against him, but just like just to hear that words, especially, and I think that comes, you know, very with a lot of weight when it comes to from a white president, because if Obama said, they would be like, oh yeah, of course you would say that, you're black. But it means, I feel like that means a lot to not just, of course, there's more to acknowledgement. You got to put action behind that, but just to first acknowledge that,
right.
that means a lot. And I know a lot of people talk about, um, you know, there's a lot of people, our people, we're just so caught up on symbolism and how, what does that mean for Kamala Harris to represent black women, and that's great, but we also need to have action. We need
Right.
action because we need there needs for, okay, acknowledge that there's, these systems that are in place that weren't broken. They were built like this on purpose. these were not broken systems. We need to break them so that they can
Right,
be
right. You're right.
restructured to become something else. And
Right.
so, but of course, acknowledge, then, policies need to be rewritten, and hopefully we can have change of hearts, because, then you have social proof. You're like, oh, well, if it starts at the top, then
Right.
what, maybe I should, fall in line. Maybe, because there's some people that out there that they just need, they're natural followers. So they, the herd mentality says, well, if the president says that this is systematic racism, and
Right.
it's never ever been called out about any president and with those exact words, then maybe systematic racism is real, because there's a lot of people
Right.
who don't believe it's real.
Man, 2020 reset a lot of stuff. So a lot of the systems and operations, they are broken down from last year. People are broke, churches are broke, police organizations are even struggling with funding. I mean, the
Mhm.
government system is struggling with funding, just taking care of the fires last year, the riots, all of the different things that happened, and people weren't even making money like last year. So it's a lot that got reset, and it's just time now for us to, in our minds, reset ourselves and build ourselves up again. So
Mhm.
that's what we're moving toward.
That's right. That's right. We'll be
Right.
watching, Biden. We'll be watching. I mean, we put you in office.
The
The South
action, man. The
Carolina
action is key. Action backed by
Democratic
courage.
primaries. It was
Right.
black folks that put you in office, so you owe us.
Right. And that's the mentality you gotta have. Own it. Own it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just more so like he's talked about helping the black community. Because I think sometimes people try to paint over us by saying, oh, people of color and da da da. We're having this program, people of color, but like no other people of color have gone through slavery and the things Jim Crow
Right.
we did. So we're black, just like specifically, we have a program that's helping and bolstering our community. There needs to be programs for black people specifically. And that's
Right,
what,
right. The whole system of racism, this is the whole system of racism,
yeah,
is to keep black people out, to just
yeah,
ignore them. That was the racism. So now in
yeah,
2021, when you talk about the stuff black people need and people are like, oh, you don't need it, that's the racism. It's just to keep us out, just to say you
yeah,
don't need it, you don't, just stay quiet. Just that's the system we're talking about, is when we come with our claim and say we need businesses, our businesses were taken, we need education, we were kept out of it, we need money, we were kept out of getting money, we were kept out of getting loans. It's like, no, you don't need anything, you just need to go over there with the minorities. That's the racism we're talking about, is when black people need theirs, you tell them stay quiet, no, or we're just going to act like you don't need anything. And we
mhm,
need, our community is in need, and it's up
yeah,
to us to speak out and fight about it until we get what we need, and go in that direction. But that's the racism. 2021, the most racist thing is for someone to just ignore your cause when
yeah.
there's money being passed around